And we're live,
Are
Bob.
we rolling, Bob? Never gets old.
Bob says we're rolling.
Bob.
Hello in there! Hey, what's so important? What you got here that's worth living for?
So we're rolling.
Hey, welcome back
Yay.
to Blathe.
Yes.
We're just going live real quick here in Morehead City. Beautiful February afternoon. My poor little animals back in Livingston. It's negative 22 this morning.
I hate to think about
But I've got heat lamps. They can cuddle up under. Anyway, here we are to Blathe. Welcome back. I'm here with Judah, my brother, and my dad,
Daddio.
And I thought we'd just have a little live Facebook conversation on a topic that could be a little bit divisive. And we'd like to look at why, because I feel like we have a useful panel here. Here's Daddy, conservative, Southern Republican. And, you know, you got some fetus. I mean, campaigned for Barry Goldwater. I mean, come on, what do you want? You know,
big loser.
He was a winner yearbook for a
got
minute.
my creds as a loser.
No, but all I'm saying is,
Yes,
regular conservative Republican.
That's right.
Judah's a Republican of sorts. I'm whatever I am, something of a voluntarist and you know,
Libertarian.
political skeptic.
Political skeptic.
But anyway,
Black sheep.
Black sheep. And the question that came up is, what is this Pledge of Allegiance to the flag?
Yeah.
Did you grew up pledging?
Oh yeah.
We all grew up.
I grew up pledging these flag in our home.
Yes. I am not
okay,
settled on the subject. I think that's why it's interesting to talk about, because I am conflicted myself.
No one wants to say. No one wants to. None of us three wants to stand up and say, "I'm sorry, I don't pledge allegiance to the flag."
I kind of want to.
We kind of want to, but we don't. We're not going to.
I still pledge allegiance.
I am ready to say at any point during the pledge, "Excuse me, yes, Paul here. I don't pledge allegiance to the flag for many reasons, but one reason is I don't even know what that means."
Okay, what can I put forth a argument for a pledge?
Please,
Yes.
please, because
Well, I
curious.
haven't thought of one yet. So
Okay.
let me just speak up.
Whenever, yeah. I've got some thoughts.
Right off the top,
To me,
as
it
we
is a
say.
more emotional and cultural thing. So
Sure.
there is no intellectual engagement with what I'm saying when
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag. What
I
I'm
had to know
doing
that.
is I'm
I'm a team player.
taking part in a general engagement in a love of our country.
Yeah,
and
there we go.
saying so I haven't ever, well, until recently, I didn't think through the words, but instead the action, and this
It's
gets
a-
into
it's a
liturgy.
liturgy.
This gets into liturgy. The action and movement together saying, I love my country.
It's a meditation.
And I commit to my country.
But
That's
does that mean
always
your
been
government,
fair.
or is it just some nebulous idea of principles plus maybe an institution,
Well, I
so
think-
long as it's true to certain principles?
Yeah.
Or is it just the institution,
The Republic.
In
The Republic for
the
which it
republic
stands.
for which it stands?
Well, and when I've said that traditionally, what I felt is an allegiance. I do feel an allegiance and submission to a set of ideas, a freedom, and a set of ideas. Now, it's not concrete; it's more of a feeling.
To me, it's
Well, it's-
dangerous and
It
it's
is.
idolatrous
Yes,
and it's disingenuous because most people don't know what they're saying. And the symbol can be used by all kinds of people in advance of all kinds of nefarious goals. And I'm pledging
Like
to
what?
roll along like a war that is stupid and destructive or something like that. And there's the flag. I've pledged allegiance to it.
Yeah. What does it mean to pledge allegiance? First of all, what does allegiance mean?
I'm with it.
I'm
with
allied
it.
with it, right?
I'm allied with it. Yeah. When it raises I'm with it. When you raise the flag, I'm with it. I'm not with the other guys. Pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, to the nation. I pledge allegiance to the nation. I am an American, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God. I don't say indivisible. I believe in divisible. I believe in secession, so I don't say that. Under God,
Liberty.
with liberty and justice for all.
For all.
That's the principle. With the liberty
and
justice for all. So I have an idea, but when they raise the flag, I say I'm with it. But I also have to fight for all of that in the republic, for liberty and justice for all.
Right. So the question, I mean, a lot of questions, obviously, but one, what is a nation? If there were a nation, if there were a common culture, but part of the American credo, at least certainly has become, is this idea of mixture and of melting pot and whatever. Well, that's not a nation.
No, I do think that we are suffering from a lack of understanding of a feeling.
Definition.
The definition of nation. I think you need, for example, for a nation, you need at least two things. You need borders. You need borders with the government, within the government, within
That's
that
a
nation.
state, yeah.
That's a state, and then you need a common language. That's the name. That you have to have something cultural.
So a geography.
You have to have
and
something.
language.
You have to have something cultural.
Yeah.
You cannot have just. It's not just a border.
But to pledge
not a nation,
allegiance
it's like-
to that, to me, is a bizarre thing, because if you remember that, you don't even have, like, to pledge allegiance is some kind of a reticulated. It's like,
But see, and this gets back to my love of liturgy, is when we say things together, it reminds us that there's
who we are.
there's nothing more there's nothing more of a reminder than saying something together. When we think it together, we all think differently. When we say it together, we hear ourselves and other people say it. That's why we sing together.
That's why I feel like it's dangerous and idolatrous, because one, it does say a flag. It's not like to the republic is nebulous enough. I pledge allegiance to these ideals or whatever. But to a flag, this is an inanimate object. And I do feel people have an idolatrous vision of this thing. And honestly, I mean...
Well, I think it is I think basically it's a military thing. You must, as a former scout and as a former soldier, I think you cannot avoid the fact that when you pledge allegiance to the flag, there is a certain martial component to it. I will not let the flag fall. I will not let the flag be taken.
I will kill people.
I will kill people who are against the flag
have another
and
flag.
the republic.
Who have a different flag.
Yeah, different flag. And who want to take, remember, and to the republic for which it stands. So I will defend the republic. I will defend the republic and the nation and the principles of justice, liberty, and justice for all. I think there's certain martial.
And that's the history of it, right? It was a kind of a Cold War. I think it was a Cold War thing, the whole pledge.
Not the whole pledge, but the Under God came in during the Cold War. Under God did, I think.
Part of a pledge revival movement.
Yeah, but I think the pledge came earlier than that.
I don't know much about it. But I think it's odd to me that so many Christians in particular are so quick to not only say the pledge, which is bad enough, but to revere it and say, if we got the pledge back in schools. Although I'm sympathetic to the idea of a unified country and this is who we are and what we're about.
Yeah, I think that's the conflict in me, is the conflict between not wanting to be idolatrous and pledge to something inanimate, and not, I don't want to pledge to some idea. I don't want to pledge to some men up in an office who are
For
telling
sure
me what to
not.
do. And I do believe we need these things to keep integrity of culture.
Well,
And
culture
mean-
or
is-
nationhood?
Or
Do you
nation.
believe in
Culture.
nationhood? Do you believe in nationhood?
I don't
Do you
know.
believe? Are you a
I don't know what
citizen?
that is.
Do you care about being a citizen of
Well,
America?
Okay.
See, that's
That's
what,
the
what
question.
Okay.
you're going back and forth between though is nation and state, and the nation state is the the modern mainstay of political and social. But for most of human history, nations and states are separated. You might be part of the nation of Israel, but under the Roman Empire or the Ottoman Empire, or what you might be part of this nation, the Bedouin nation, or whatever. But the empires and the state thing were operate on different levels.
No, I know. I definitely think it is a challenge, and it's obviously a challenge today
Mhm.
as to whether or not you care about the nationhood of the state. If it's just a state, that is, I pledge allegiance to the state, whoever and to whomever governs it, whatever laws they happen to pass today, however they live and whatever they do tomorrow. No, to the nation, the idea. Yes, there was a certain jingoistic kind of, I would say, vaguely racial thing back in the 50s, whereas, we all understood Superman, when I was a kid, Superman, he stood there.
Flag. Sure.
Well, he stood in front of the flag
Yeah.
and he fought for truth, justice,
and
and the American way. That
Whatever
is
the heck that
the
is.
American way. Well, but it was an idea.
But they knew kind of. They had
It
a
was
sense.
an idea
You
of
understand.
who we are,
Right.
what we do. This is the way we live. And if you don't have that, you have confusion, which is what we are descending into, or seem to be
Right.
descending into today. That is what anybody who wants to talk louder, who wants to push harder, these are the people who will run things. Well, I'm not going to pledge allegiance to whoever's the loudest, whoever's
Yes.
push hardest.
And
I want there
that's-
to be a way, a nation.
That's exactly why I have trended way more. I am drawn to liturgy in church, is because it tends to be
Have a
who's the loud
confession.
instead of the loudest.
Yeah.
This is I like to I think it's important for any culture, any kind of cult. I mean, culture is based on the word cult.
It's common
For-
root.
Common root. To be able to say the things, just say that we are together for a
To announce
what
it
we do.
together.
and
bring
then
it
to
in.
announce the purpose. But first, you have to say
we are we.
are here for a purpose, and that's why I have
And-
liked the Pledge of Allegiance, because it's not saying if you say nothing, then we are not anything
Yes.
together.
Okay. I get that. That's
No.
good.
Or else it's like you said, it's just the loudest person.
I think it's a relic of what was a mostly beautiful, somewhat ugly, but it was in many ways wonderful thing that was a nation. It was America, but though it's too big, it's no longer that, and it's too. The nation and the statehood is, the government, this massive machine that I believe is really at odds with the principles of liberty and justice for all.
Well,
And so I think the whole thing's scrapped, and you'll never catch me pledging allegiance to the flag.
but what about the argument that pledging allegiance to the flag gets us back to a shared?
Well, I mean,
principle?
you see that, for instance, and but you look at like the guys, lurching into the Capitol on January 6th, they were carrying flags.
Yeah.
Even though everybody talks about it as an attack on our democracy, attack on our system, but they viewed it as a restoration.
They didn't know what they were doing.
They didn't know what.
I mean,
a bunch of
it was this big
but
riot.
whatever. That was a mess.
But
But
it's
all
confusing.
I'm saying is that people, I think, on many different sides of American questions now could all be carrying an American flag to a common battlefield.
Well, you don't see Black Lives Matter carrying American flags.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see.
But I think even they have a sense that the principles that they're espousing are fundamental American. Yeah, I think
don't think they want to be American.
Well, I think liberty and justice for all. I think is.
Yeah, but now you're helping them.
I believe I'm sympathetic.
You go and ask them what their principles are. It's not liberty and justice for all.
I think it is liberty and justice for all.
Well,
part of it, one of the certainly,
might
obviously,
be fairness or whatever.
Well, what's the difference between fairness and justice?
I'm just saying it's not America. It's not America. It's
something else.
Some idea that they want, and it might be a good idea. I'm not saying it's not,
but it's not. They're not tying their idea.
It is a bad idea, but I mean, it doesn't have to be a bad idea.
Yeah.
It's just not. They wouldn't carry an American flag because it stands for something. It stands for something that they. I mean, they can attach to.
They've broken with. But I may have also broken.
They can stick with things on it that I understand. Slavery, fighting and being treacherous to Afghanistan and everything else. There's a lot of crap you can set on the flag.
Sure.
But the idea, I think you pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. This is the idea. Do you think of yourself as a member that will defend this idea? Not above all other ideas. That is a good question.
That's a tough one.
And I don't think, I'm with you, I don't think we should be displaying the American flag in churches. I don't believe that. Mm-hmm. And I think putting that and having Veterans Day in churches and all that stuff, that
too much.
Are we there for God or are we there for other things? Mm-hmm. I don't want to, single out Americanism or anything. No, we're there for God and the Lord Jesus Christ. Everything else is
secondary,
outside.
There's something in my DNA, though, that not really my DNA,
sure,
but
ideological
DNA, cultural DNA, that does not want to let go of the idea of America. Although I think what we're saying is that there isn't something to get back to. There is a set of ideas there once was. Do we try to get back to getting everybody to that? What is the way forward for us?
Yeah. Well, I think it's worth pointing out that the flag has changed. And it sounds kind of trivial, right? Like, well, whatever. But it's changed for concrete reasons. The geography changed, right? Yeah. The geography changed. The population changed. And the flag that we're pledging allegiance to,
it still has 13 stripes, and I'll tell you why.
13 original colonies.
That's right.
And there were ideas there that I think so much of what the 13 original colonies espoused and the Framers' Constitution espoused, I think so much of that has evaporated. I don't know. I just thought it'd be interesting to talk about pledging allegiance.
This is the first time I've talked about it in a way that I am not. I mean, up until recently, I've defended the pledge.
Really?
Oh yeah. Mainly because and let's admit that much of what we defend is just something that we like, right?
The much aesthetic or emotional commitment.
Well, also we have to remember there's a lot that we do in order not to make an issue of your denial. That is, I'm not a big fan of Christmas, but I don't want to make a big deal of getting rid of Christmas, because you get rid of Christmas, you got to stop it. Don't sing about Jesus being born. Don't
have fun. Don't give each other gifts.
Again, don't give me any gifts. And don't put the tree. No.
So do you want to be a naysayer?
Being a naysayer. Do you want to stop and say, I don't want to do this?
But isn't it more? It doesn't go further than that, because in a culture you need signposts of that culture, right? You need things.
That's right.
And so where do you stop if you get rid of Christmas? If you get what do you keep and what do you?
That's what I. It's a good question. I think you should go. I think you should, as a conservative, I think you should just sort of go with things until they are nasty.
Yeah.
And when they become nasty, and when they become, what do you call it, where you're pernicious, and when they are when they're breeding immorality,
Well, see, and that's where I feel like we could be at with a flag. I think the American government and many American institutions are so corrupt and so self-serving and so have wandered so far astray from the republic in which it stands.
What you're thinking about is Washington, right?
But essentially, and I feel like the flag points to Washington. And
it's a good point.
And so, to the extent that the flag points to Washington, the Capitol Dome, and all those institutions, bless their hearts, I don't want to pledge allegiance to that. So that's my thoughts on it. We got to go. If you pledge allegiance to the flag, I think you should reconsider. Yeah. I will reconsider that. Actually, I honestly, in this conversation, have softened my anti-pledge views a little bit. I mean, Dad and I still at least definitely don't say indivisible because that's a whole nother component. That's like anyway. Yeah, the indivisibility.
I have to think about that.
But I'd like to talk to.
We believe in Jesus' land, separating
the kingdom of Christ.
Yeah,
and that is a kingdom of peace. And I'm just afraid that the flag is not.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
To Blathe.
Look on YouTube. We have actually the first To Blathe season 2.
Season 2.
Check us out where we talk about advice, teaching, and preaching and the difference therein.
Overlap.
Hello in there. Hey, what's so important? What you got here that's worth living for?